What's with the hold up? White breath, big coat, got the cold touch. Can't hear too much of her shoulders. Don't sweat, this night isn't over. Don't stress, this love is a coaster. Jump up, jump down on my sofa. This air too loud, the doja. Tryna ease you out. Take a deep breath, gonna calm you down. I hear this beat down deep inside. Don't wait to feel, don't wait to try. So what's with the hold up? If you come back to show up. So what's with the hold up? If you come back to move. What's with the hold up? If you come back to show up. So what's with the hold up? If you come back to show up. Hold up, slow touch. Always blowing up phones when the door shut. Deep breath, white nights. You should let in some air, you get stuck. Hurt feet as the tears rush. Cold sleep, keep a parent's son. They don't know what you crying for. They don't know what you do to get onto the dance floor. How many times that it takes to convince you? How many times that I'm someone you want more? I'm trying to show you the things that I'm into, but every time we arrive at an ending, now I fear that I sound condescending. I know you hurt, but you know that I'm mending. We can step at home if you want to. I hear this beat down deep inside. Don't wait to feel, don't wait to try. So what's with the hold up? If you come back to show up. So what's with the hold up? If you come back to move. What's with the if you come back to show up. So what's with the if you come back to show up. I've been so lonesome since she went away. She's gone through changes, but I've stayed the same. And she knows that my heart was in the right place. It's a shame that the right place is too far away. Too far away. Yeah, 2 years and a couple missed calls in a new city with a couple new walls and some new friends. They don't know who you are, but I like them better anyway. Cause they don't stress when I'm having some fun, and they don't guess if I'm feeling undone. Though I can't sleep now, I wonder if I like it better, like it better. We've been so unattached that I think I need to connect. Cause can't fall asleep alone. I think I still need you on the phone. Yeah, I can't fall asleep alone. And I just miss the way you go. And I hate the way we left it, pretending being selfish. But you know I cannot help it, cause I'm not the best with help. But I still need you on the phone. Cause I can't fall asleep alone. Oh God, just a second, think I might have slept it. I'm the one who made this bed, I kinda rep it. Ain't no rest for the wicked or the selfish. But maybe there's another way to say that I like to our boss when I calls you. Anything that is called would have fall through. Got a couple nights and they are all for you. We've been so unattached that I think I need to connect. Cause can't fall asleep alone. No, I can't. Think I still need you on the phone. I still need you on my phone. Can't fall asleep alone. I can't. And I just miss the way you go. Oh yeah. And I hate the way we left it, funny how the world keeps turning. Stars like ladders in the sky keep burning, burning. It's crazy how the storms keep raging, and I'm here trying to keep my heart from aching. It's funny how the world keeps turning, but here with you it's like my life's returning. Whoa, it's crazy how we're not just falling, but I'm losing balance here, my heart's gone all in, all in. Starlight burning in the night sky, this feels like a lifetime moment with you. One day things will turn out better. We could be together. We could be together underneath the stars. We could be together. We could be together underneath the stars. When I see you, I see forever. And when I'm with you, we could go wherever. It's crazy, I don't feel the pressure.
Well, welcome everybody, all my beautiful little elves, to a very special Christmas edition of Mini RPG of the Week. I say that's probably the last time we're going to mention Christmas tonight. There's nothing in the theming of the map as far as I know, Babs, going on with it. So we're just here to have a good time. Too cool for Yule, that's us here.
Yeah, I mean, nothing about Christmas, but maybe there might be some presents and treats for the winners, and maybe some PayPals out there.
I mean, let's not go making promises that we can't keep, Babs, alright? Like, let's calm down a little bit, but it is going to be fun. We're rapidly heading towards the end of the year here, and it's not the end of the first year of Mini RPG of the Week. You know, we're only about 35 seasons in, but we're getting there, and I'm looking forward to rounding out this year. We will be doing the classic, everyone knows it at this point, a 15-minute warm-up into a couple of days style knockout rounds. Lots of players already joining in on the server, and we should be getting underway once we hit that hour mark. This week's mapper, Australix, one of our regular mappers here.
Yeah, very regular, and he's probably very well used to making these sort of maps, and probably his favorite style, I can imagine. And for good reason, because he does it well, and he gives us good maps for a good competitive week, week on week. So yeah, looking forward to this one. You said, a classic, and this competition pretty much has become a classic and a staple of every week pretty much. So looking forward to this one especially.
Yeah, and hopefully we get a good few players in. I know you've said that he's good at mapping, and Australix has promised in his notes to us this week that, he's done some previous maps, he's figured out what the players liked, what they didn't like, he's made a map that everyone could enjoy, and then the next sentence is, there is still some ice though.
Yeah, that's the exact sentence. I think he said, he wants to he tried to make it as enjoyable as possible for as many people as possible, but there's ice. So, you have to take some of the good with some of the bad, and but we'll see how the players can react to those different challenges that the ice and the other parts of the track might throw at them today.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing what it does look like when we get in players. I can see them in the background there. Some of them going for a drive around the stadium at this point, getting their last tours in, getting those hands nice and warmed up. I mean, hey, big part of the winter season, right? Like, we have very few Southern Hemisphere players, massive advantage at this time of year, like the hands, they stay so much warmer. All of our Northern Hemisphere players, they're in the mud, man.
Oh yeah, that summer hemisphere buff is definitely in action, and this energy crisis isn't really helping at all. I think if we look at this Mini RPG of the Week in a global context,
how do we position ourselves on the scale of global economics? It's really coming down hard on Mini RPG of the Week.
So I think from that we can probably expect a Brazilian winner today.
100%. I think that's a fair bet. Like, we'll have to see if we actually get any of the Brazilians in. You know, like, we get them quite a lot of the time, but not all the time. And they do tend to join in numbers when they do show up. So fingers crossed we do see someone there. As we will now be loading onto map. I do see it there in the background. I'm seeing some sausage blocks at the start as well. And I mean, hey, if you want to talk about things that are divisive, we already talked about ice, but sausage block is another one of those. Luckily, it's over pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you said we weren't going to mention Christmas, but I mean, sausages for me makes me think of Christmas. I'm not going to lie to you.
Do you want to clarify that one?
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. Okay, Southern Hemisphere is probably going to be a bit different again, but like, you know, pigs in blankets, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes a lot more sense than wherever my mind went. And that's on me. Sausage stuffing, also great. Ooh. Also potentially could be taken out of context. We made our own stuffing mix for ours this year. Apples in it, some herbs that were picked in a local garden. I'm looking forward to it. It's the best part of Christmas.
Wow, you've already made your stuffing. You're well ahead.
There is so much of it in the freezer right now.
Lucky man, very lucky man. But I tell you, who else is lucky is everybody watching the stream and everybody playing. Because it looks very interesting at the moment. That ice already looking very scary.
That is spicy. It has been said by Australix that he enjoys mapping transitional maps, and I think that's, well, pretty clear to see so far as well. That's a nice little bug slide turnaround there. Reactor boost into water then, and a jump up onto it. You can see safe routes for these. These are respawnable. I mean, that's wicked as hell.
Man, I've just, casting these events, I've just gotten used to not playing them. And I know that casting is way more fun than not playing, because when you see these tricks, you just think, oh, how many people are gonna fail this?
Yeah. You don't have to see the ghost for the first time driving and watch the GPS and be like, oh, how many times am I going to fail this?
Yeah, it's just like huh?
Yeah. Clueless. That's me every time I see one of these maps as well. It is going to be, you can see Nova here struggling a little bit on it. That ice is going to be hard to get a lineup on. And after that, it's not the hardest pathfinding map we've seen, especially in recent weeks, but there is an element of it going on here for players who haven't seen it. And even if you have seen the GPS on this one, it definitely feels like a map where it's going to take a couple of runs to actually get that route hammered into your brain. Yeah,
no, definitely. And I think if you consider mini RPG as a style, I feel like this map probably, you know, stays loyal to that definition of mini RPG in the fact that you've got, like, you know, tricks and bug slides and weird jumps. But it kind of feels like there aren't too many lines that you can take. There's probably one specific line which is the fastest, and you kind of need to stay on to make sure you don't make any mistakes. And I think that's a staple as well of this sort of transitional style mapping. But it offers some spectacular viewing when we do watch these rounds, but mistakes are going to be very costly.
Absolutely. One of the other things that is going to be very interesting to me, I think, in these rounds is the fact that there is two routes on a lot of these tricks. There is the hard route, the route that is actually a trick that does require you to go for these flips, these jumps across the side. And there is a safe route as well. And, you know, messing up one of the previous jumps is going to lead to you having lower speed. And once again, decision making is going to be a factor, Babs. We're going to see, like, when do players actually cut their losses and say, yeah, I'm not making this, I need to go safe right on the next one.
Yeah, and speaking of safe and those players who are going to be making those decisions, I saw Marius in the lobby, the safe meister himself. And a lot of other names that we've seen regularly through Mini RPG of the Week. Yannick's right ahead of Lost Sheep at the moment. Yeah, looking to be another exciting week, some good competition. Interesting to see who can get those fast times to begin with. You can see there's a lot of disparity in those times at the moment. It's to be expected. We're only about 4 minutes in. So yeah, going to be interesting to see
4 minutes in. We have our mapper, Australix, telling us that he reckons kind of 1 minute, probably a good time on this map. And we're not close to it. We're still nearly double it in the times for most people. And I think that's a sign that definitely it's taking a little bit of time for players. I'd say a lot of the top players spending a couple of attempts on each trick at the moment, you know, trying to figure out their lines as they go through their first run. And it's going to take a while for decent times to start rolling in on this one.
Yeah, definitely, because you can watch a GPS and you can understand, you know, where you're supposed to go. But a GPS, even though it shows you everything, it doesn't tell you everything. So, you know, you can watch that and you can understand the line. But all those little small tricks, those little tips that you know somebody could tell you, GPS isn't going to tell you. So you need to find those for yourself. And this is what these 15 minutes are all about: is, you know, how many people can find those little tricks and make it Regu, basically.
Yeah, barrel rolls. Look, I'm not ashamed to admit it. There's something that I struggle with a lot because I always end up like instinctively holding a direction in the air and cancelling my roll and ending up upside down. No matter what I do, I just end up upside down and landing on my roof out of them.
Yeah, it is one of those tricks which is, it's kind of specific to RPG as that style, and it was in a cup of the day about like 2 or 3 days ago. There was a lot of barrel rolls, and I remember I had that same issue as you. I would be hunting it in TimeAttack, and you know, you'd be doing it fine 15 times, and then one time you just completely do it wrong and question your whole existence.
Yeah, and it's not even, like, it's not a conscious decision. It's not like, okay, I'm steering to land for this, because you're so used to, I think, a lot of the time in air just cancelling your rotation by, you know, holding a direction, cancelling out the spin, that you see your car over rotating a little bit and you're just like, okay, my hand just has automatically now started moving the joystick or has started holding down that key in the direction to cancel this rotation, and you can't figure out why you've ended up on your roof that time because it just fully was not a conscious decision. So I'm expecting to see some players land on their roofs and early in rounds here. I'm expecting to see some people looking for the comebacks as a result.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting people to miss the track. That first barrel roll, if people go for it, and you can see it, even making it to the other side is looking kind of sketchy at the moment for a few people. And you need good speed out of that landing as well to make the next transition. So yeah, it's one challenge after another, so it's going to be interesting to see who might go for that safe start and that safe start approach to just to ensure that they get a run going before doing anything else.
Yeah, hear me out. Marius, probably, if I had to take a quick guess at it. I think one of the players who has, I mean, lives up to the nickname, right? He's always very consistent about going for safe routes. We have seen him in some recent previous weeks get to the top 2 and then lose it because he suddenly decided to try the risky route because he was feeling the pressure, feeling the need to get a better pace on the map, and hadn't been practicing the risky route because he's gotten to top 2 with safe routes repeatedly. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I agree with you. And it is definitely a transitional map in probably not the true sense of the word, but in a very strict sense of the word, where everything is a transition leading into a transition. As you said, if you get one of them wrong, you are not lined up for the next transition. And if you get that one wrong, it all changes. One transition going a little bit awry can definitely mess you up for one kind of 2-3 turns or 2-3 tricks down the road.
Yeah, and that's where you're saying those 2 routes. So like, you know, knowing that safe route is going to be essential, because I don't think you can realistically expect to get through the amount of rounds that we're going to play without making a mistake. So yes, you can say to yourself, oh, you know, I'm not going to go for the safe route, I'm going to go for the risky route. But what happens if you fail the risky route? And that's where you see a lot of players who, you know, have pace, then make one small mistake and are just incapable of recovering it because they haven't practiced that safe route or they haven't understood it properly. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. I'm going to make a prediction right now. I think in our final, that's what decides it.
You think someone's going to lose to that in the finals? That's a bold prediction because it relies on the finals with all of the pressure that implies, getting to that point without someone making a mistake up to there. Which, maybe, but that's definitely a bold prediction.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, and I'll stick by it for now, and if I don't mention it again,
everyone
you know
will quietly forget about it. Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the way to hedge your bets. Absolutely. Top tier. We are heading out. 6 minutes, well, 6.5 minutes left. We're nearly at the 2/3 of the way through. I'm just showing off maths at this point, but we are getting some players down closer to that 1 minute mark. Still, though, not many of them. You know, players are still definitely in the learn the map, learn your tricks, learn how to be regular on these jumps phase.
Yeah, and I just looked at that safe strat from Ernie Ball at the start, not taking that jump to the left and actually going around the bowl on the right side. And if I was playing this at the moment, I think I would be going for that because it doesn't look much slower, and that just is a lot safer. Obviously, some of these transitions like the water there, you'd probably want to go for definitely, you know, getting a nice spoke slide here. These are, even though they look quite impressive, they're probably some of the easier tricks to actually nail down and get quite regu.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, especially for competition mapping, is putting in things that are not too difficult to get right but look impressive on stream. Very important, you know. And as you said, there are some of these. There are very difficult, very technical parts of this map. There are some bits like that jump there. I think is actually quite surprisingly forgiving. You have such a wide landing area on that second last jump. Like the lead up to it is, compared to some of the other setups on this map, very, very straightforward. It is literally just a quarter pipe. And again, it looks really good, but it's not going to be the make or break while still looking visually very cool. And feeling cool to drive, right? Like, those are fun to do.
Yeah, so it might not be the make or break in those, like, earlier rounds, but once it comes down to the pace you have in rounds, getting that a little bit more clean or getting a landing with better speed, that can decide, you know, what position you get and ultimately if you go out or if you stay in.
Yeah. Managing to climb all the way to the top, you're right, and it is those bits. I mean, that's the joy of it, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. Rounds can be decided by moments like that, by the hard tricks going wrong, but they can also be decided by how well someone executes on the easy tricks as well. Like, that is, we've talked about Marius already, and I mean, look, we talk about him a lot because he does very well, but that's why he does so well. He doesn't do the hard tricks the best all the time. Sometimes he just chooses not to even go for them. You don't even need to barrel roll there. Is exciting.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. I enjoy that. That's good to know. Probably about the same speed, but just finished point on Marius. You know, he doesn't go for the risky strats all the time, and that means he doesn't necessarily execute the risky strats best, but he's just consistently quick on the quote-unquote easy parts of the map, right? Like, he just lands better. He just gets more speed on those landings, or he transitions better, or he takes turns just a little bit cleaner. And yeah, that works, you know, and that's one of the ways to get high results.
Yeah, you know, I use this expression for one of my good focus teammates, but debt, taxes, and Marius, you can be assured of all three. You know, if you make a mistake, you know, you can get ahead of Marius in the start, and you can stay ahead of him. But if you make a mistake, he's ahead of you, and that's just that's how Marius plays. And he's well known for that, and you know, he lives up to it as well. So it's gonna be interesting to see what sort of line he adopts and how that safe start looking. Ooh, that's not the strat, Yannick.
Yeah, it's definitely not as quick for sure. Going backwards, maybe not the play there. Jumping out though, that's the strat. And yeah, not going to be that much slower. Definitely slower, but the fact that you're not risking an awkward landing could be worth it to some of these players. Yannick is just going to drive fully the safe route. Does currently have the local record as well. So look, knows how to drive fast on this map. And now we do get to kind of limit test against it. Yannick is going to provide us with a really good comparison point for the safe rides. Yeah,
definitely. And I can just see Yannick being very happy with this map, you know, understanding how it flows, and now just being like, you know, I need to know how to recover if ever I make a mistake. He's sitting back in his chair, hitting his vape, and just, you know, driving this safe route and thinking, yeah, I'll just go here, okay, go here. So yeah, I think Yannick's probably looking quite good and probably quite confident this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Full safe route. So we're looking at it here. Definitely losing, well, especially with a mistake there. But I think, right, he'd made a couple of very small errors earlier on as well. But I think with a perfect run here, what would you say? Like with this safe route as well, probably losing about 5 to 10 seconds on the normal ways.
So let's see what time he finishes with. It's a 1:21. I reckon he probably lost about around 15 seconds there. So that safe route is probably, you know, a 1:05ish, something like that if you get it clean, which is probably is comfortably going to stay in for a lot of these early rounds. I expect.
I'd say all the way up to top 10 almost. Like, I think it's mini RPG of the week, and on a map like this where it is all about landing these transitional jumps, where it is all about keeping your flow going the entire way through the map, we're going to be seeing mistakes all the way up until that top 10 and probably beyond. Yeah,
and considering there's only one player who's sub 1 minute at the moment, at 1:05, you know, seems pretty good, all things considered.
Yep. We'll see if that does end up being the case. Of course, worth noting as well that, as you mentioned, you do still have to get the safe way cleanly. There's no guarantee of that. It is safer. Like, you're not going to fail and completely lose time, but there are failable parts of it as well, and there are just bits where if you push a little bit too hard, you will end up jumping awkwardly. So something to keep an eye on. That safe way is good. Safe way is fast enough for a lot of the competition, but still not completely 100% guaranteed safe, especially as you try to push it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's always the mini RPG dilemma. is that you kind of got that devil on your shoulder telling you, oh, you could do this, or you could go a little bit faster by doing this. And then you fail, and then you're out, and then at the end you look at the times.
Hear me out. And this has just come to me in a vision. What if they added Safeways to TM World Tour identities that were like significantly slower, but you add that decision making of like, I think people are going to fail this identity this run?
I feel like maybe on some identities there aren't safe ways, but there are safe ways of doing the identity that are much slower.
Exactly, but like making that a feature, not a bug. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's not how we do things here.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. I think it'd be interesting because like, you're like, look, one of the reasons I love mini RPG as a style is that decision making, is players being able to make decisions, and it comes down to a lot due to non-standard lines, due to non-standard turns and jumps and the rest of it. A lot of the time, there is more decision making about what kind of line you're going to take through a section as well. And that's an awful lot of fun in mini RPG, and it'd be nice to see it in more styles as well. But it's hard to introduce into a lot of other styles.
Yeah, no, I agree. But those decisions start now, as we're into the no KO round, as we're following on board with Lars and now Nalax. Our peloton got off to a start altogether, but now we only have, well, make that one driver who's in front, followed by Area, who's half a second behind. And who actually takes the lead now. But yeah, looks like there's been a lot of mistakes in this first no KO round.
Yeah, and what Nalax did there, that touch on the wall there, that's one of those things that's going to be very costly if you make a mistake entering the water, because I think at that point you probably lack speed for that big jump over the top. You're forced into the safe route, and that's a mistake at the end. You're right, that end is brutal. That is going to cost multiple people their rounds. That is going to cost multiple people a KO as well. But it's going to come down to decision making so much today. Do you have the speed? At what point do you cut your losses and go for the safer route because you don't have the lineup? It's going to be tough. When do you pull the trigger on that respawn button? When do you pull the trigger on a double respawn if necessary? All of these are the moment-to-moment decisions. All of it comes down to how quick a player is to actually adapt on the fly. And this is one of those maps that is going to test other players. And this finish is going to test how well you can drive uphill on dirt.
Ooh. Nice finish by Technocrash. But yeah, coming back to that risky finish, it's actually really interesting in the way that it's built, because when you look at it, you might think the hard part is getting that good angle, that the exiting the jump at the right angle and the right position, but it's actually the landing that you get before that. If you get bumped into the wall, or if you land clean and give yourself time to aim for that finish. So yeah, going to be interesting to look at that as we get into the first round now.
First round of Mini RPG Week 35, a full 68 players on the server, and I think we're going to see an awful lot of DNFs in this first round, if I had to guess. I'm going to say probably about 11, 12?
I'll raise you to 13.
Oh, unlucky 13 coming right into Christmas as well, and it won't be a present for a lot of these players. Bateau Tigre, the boat tiger, is struggling a little bit at the back at the moment, and he's going to have to do a little bit. Maybe he's managing to get some overtakes done. It is, I think, just a race to actually finish. I think as long as you finish, you're going to be okay on this round.
Yeah, but Bateau Tigre, at the moment, that ship is sinking. It's not sailing, and he's not sailing anywhere near the finish. So, yep, that's looking like it's going to be a difficult round for him. Varbas as well with that Ukrainian skin. As we see a lot of players actually, just struggling to get started. It's cars all over the place. It feels like an absolute wreck at the moment.
It is scattered around the track, and there is action on every part of the track as a result, but we already have a finish up at the front. Marius getting a 59. No, he hasn't. Sorry, it's a very slow round. I assume that was a finish time. Instead, it is going to be a 1:02 up the front. So I'm going to assume that that's a finish time, that we're not still all stuck on the last checkpoint somehow.
Yeah.
As we'll see, Varbo's still struggling to get through. 40 seconds left, and it still just comes down to getting across that finish line. If you do it, you're going to be through.
Yeah. I think a 102 is probably a very solid time. We might get into those 101s with those players as they get faster, because obviously the learning time, like those 15 minutes, is over, but you still continue to learn how to go faster on the map throughout these rounds, and the longer you stay in, the truer that is. So we're likely to see times get faster and faster as we get towards the end.
Yep. That's it's going to be a rough exit here for Varbus. Is pinballing around the track near the back, but runs out of time. 16 players eliminated. It's been a while since we've seen numbers that high in round 1.
Yeah, yeah, and it just goes to show how difficult this map is, I guess, and you know how difficult it is to get to the end. It's that transitional style, and it's caused issues for a lot of these players. So yeah, 16 players out. We're down to 55. 4 at least to be eliminated this round. At least I say that.
Rare, yeah, exactly. It could be the rare more than the set amount in round 2 as well.
And you know, we have a lot of players already here just at a standstill, just trying to get past the start. And I feel like that's that decision making. You know, it might feel shameful. It might feel like you don't want to go for it, but that safe route, you know, essentially is going to get you to the rest of the map.
Yeah, and we did have Blackburn in chat flexing that he didn't go out in the first round, so now we'll see. Does he go out in the second round? He's currently safe, but is fighting against some very good players back here. Skinny at the back at the moment. They're in the safe zone, but that's going to be a slow transition heading up into the bobsleigh, and that means it's going to be an awkward transition out of the bobsleigh as well. We'll jump back to Flo, who is in the danger zone at the moment, the player from Loading.
Yeah, no, and it's, you know, he's a player from Loading, like, you know, he's a player who knows how to play the game, you know, that's for certain, and this is still causing a lot of issues. So it's not necessarily, you know, not necessarily if you're a bad player that you're going to struggle with this start. It's going to cause problems for everyone, and it's just about trying to get that consistency somehow, whether it's between a safe route or doing something slightly different. And Flo really struggling now.
I do appreciate your commitment to not just saying skill issue there. Much appreciated.
It took me a little while to find the words, but I got there, yeah.
You got there, and well, Flo has overtaken someone. Unfortunately for the squad of Loading, it was another Loading player, and Hollow is now stranded a little bit at the back, trying to figure out how to get a respawn off. L75BPN is going to be climbing up the table a little bit, is looking for someone to overtake. You have to assume that there will be a respawn somewhere between here and the finish. That's a clean transition and will be an overtaken. Enough speed to go for this jump, to go for the double backflip. Tony Hawk could never.
Yeah, enough speed, but not enough time as we end the round. 8 players eliminated. Hollow, the tech god, is out. Nalax, the player from
Blackburn, no!
And Blackburn out. Blackburn with the recent sub as well. We thank Blackburn for his sub, and we thank him for his time in the competition, but unfortunately it comes to an end in round 2 as we transition into round 3 now.
And one day I will remember to add Peepo Ireland to the channel emotes, but today was not that day, you know? And that happens. Maybe, you know, goals for 2023, New Year's resolutions and all that. But we can worry about Irish patriotism in the future because we've got an American flag on screen, and I think Eternal Destroyer was struggling a little bit at the start of the last round, but is one of those players who seems to just be happy. He's decided safe route early on, and he climbs up pretty quickly to away from that danger zone.
Yeah, and he might be trying to write his name in history and trying to stay in this competition a bit longer, and maybe get into those higher positions. First step to doing that is getting through this round 3. So we have Jam TM at the back, the French player, really struggling as he goes over this grass scenery part. Players really just flying all over the place. It is a spectacle.
It's an awful lot of fun. It's that transition out of the bobsleigh, absolutely brutal. As like, if you don't have the speed, if you don't have the line, you do just end up bouncing the back wheels of your car off that wall, and that kind of compromises you then going into the semi-wall ride into your next jump. It's definitely a little bit tough. Leadface.
I'm sorry, I just said, what a name, Leadface. I think a personal favourite of mine, it has to be said at the moment. But
he's upside down, which isn't going to help.
Yeah.
It's the British car with 44 on the back. Very fitting, you know, we love to see it. Lewis Hamilton represented here, but unfortunately Trackmania, it does mean 44th place, and 44th place will be someone going out at the moment. I think we're getting closer to having all players finish the round, but we still do only have 10 seconds left. We could still see it. Punch choosing to go for the risky fin and will make it across, still in 44th place. We will see 4 players eliminated this round. Jam dropping out as well.
Yeah, and in 46 we have Lewis Leadface Hamilton, who's out as well. Unfortunate for him, he had a good run, not as good in the server as he is on the track. But speaking of those names that I've seen Ender up there, the recent addition to that Wumbo roster, who's playing this competition that, you know, touted very highly by a lot in the community, a very good player. It's going to be interesting to see how he can play and you know, face up against these mini RPG veterans as like the likes of Yannick's and Ice.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just mini RPG veterans. There are very good players in this server. You know, we talked about Yannick's, we talked about Marius. There are a lot of other players near the top who are just good players in general. So it's a nice place to see, and it's nice to see, you know, up-and-coming talent as well joining in to test themselves.
That's it, and that's what this community is all about. You know, the mini RPG community is one of the most welcoming, one of the most nice communities to be a part of. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So yeah, it is, unfortunately though, one of the toughest styles to get used to. A lot of fun, but very, very difficult to start off with.
Yep, and we do still have a little bit of Irish representation left in at the moment as Red 350. Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, the checkpoint!
That's so heartbreaking. Look, we saw Yannick's do that in warm-up, so, you know, obviously it's a possibility. Red, though, still in the danger zone, would have been, I think, just about safe if they'd made that through first time of asking, but now is heading towards the water in the hot seat. Lars is down in this bottom zone. Kiraj down here as well, one of our regular mappers. The Frontiers mapper Red over jumps by not being central enough. Kiraj is taking safe roads in the meantime and is going to be jumping across, is going to make the mistake there. It's going to be a mad dash for this finish line.
Yeah, with 20 seconds to go, Red has to full respawn. The CP is going up this hill. Is he going to have enough time? I feel like he has to go for that risky finish. Does he? Oh, he's not.
Oh,
he has 10
respawn.
seconds.
Destroyer respawned in front, so if he gets across the line here, he should be safe. He'll get there in 39th place. And the man in the American car, Eternal Destroyer, had been holding on, had been going for the safe routes, and just ultimately went for a risky route at the finish. Punished for it. Will drop out in 41st. Wait, Red. Oh, no, it's fine. Red's still in. No, that's just someone has disconnected and reconnected to the server, and it just baits you. It baits you. All right, that's why we had a pause there as well. He's still in. Don't worry about it.
But does that bring back any memories? Yeah,
I mean, I can think of it happening to a couple of people in at least one competition in particular. But luckily, like, it's never actually caught the player out by surprise, and they've always remembered to keep driving in the next round.
Oh, of course, no, they'd never go AFK and open the stream and then see their own car sitting on the start line. That just wouldn't happen, would it?
It might, and it might happen to some people in this call. No, surely not.
Surely not, and surely not. Technocrash won't be out this round, as he's been chased down by the Belgian player Phonogen.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not going to make a guess.
I mean, why would you have me out in this situation?
Like, honestly, I can't see a good reason to. You were doing so well for a given value of well.
in what metric? Yeah. Another Belgian player, Charlox, which is a bit of an easier pronunciation, is going through the CP now into the water, into the jump, and he goes for that bug slide instead of the wall bounce. I was saying that wall bounce seemed like one of those easier tricks to do, but you can see some of the players still, you know, considering not doing it and just going for that safe route. And honestly, I can't blame them. Having watched these first rounds and the clown fiesta it has been at the back, you know, just getting to the finish is already probably good enough to stay in.
Yeah, this is a good late push from Charlox, though. Is just going to need to make one last jump, and oh no! Will stop. Now needs to climb the hill, needs to get momentum, is overtaken by 3 cars. Up that hill, drops to 35th. Is there still one last finish in it? Yes, there is. As Charlox will make it through in 35th. Doodrift will drop out. Sylvain, Doodrift, honestly, when there's 2 names, I never know which one is the team.
Oh, any French players watching at home will know that those 2 names go very well together. A bit of an inside beam for the French community.
I hope the French community... Look, the French, they do need things to enjoy this week.
Definitely, it's something to lift their spirits. Unfortunately, they can't all win today, so hopefully whoever does, if he is French, you know, it brightens the mood a little bit.
It's true. There's no Argentines in the server, so, you know, at least they're safe from any kind of replay of that. There won't be any last-minute shenanigans in that sense. But there is a Looker's Turbo who is going to be dropping to the back. Now, is the option the safe route? Surely it has to be no. He's still going risky, lands very low, and that is a double respawn. Decision-making, it's one of the things we talked about there. I think with it wasn't necessarily the wrong decision. He's going to make it just about.
Lula.
I mean...
I don't understand this. I'm supposed to stay impartial, but where is he going?
Yeah, I think, yeah, a little bit of a camera shake there. We have lost Looker's Turbo from the tournament, as, It's trying to make the decision the second time around to go for it again. Yeah, the safe route is there, and that safe route in particular, one of the least punishing.
Yeah, we saw Yannick's going for it in his full safe run, and that's probably one of the checkpoints where you can probably lose only like a few tenths if you take that safe safe route. And honestly, you know, a player of Looker's Turbo's, you know, caliber, you'd expect him to be able to make the risky, but there's no shame in going for that
He's
safe.
Still here.
Yes.
Wait, he's still here. He's still here. He's in front of Sherlock's as well. And his car is there. Look, something's going on, but he is there, and Sherlock's will crash out. So we take back anything we said about him leaving the server. Look at him. He's flying away into the distance now. He could still crash the finish. He's going to go for that risky finish. Looks like he's made it across the line up there, just about. Sherlock's is in 30th place. There's a couple of finishes coming through. And it comes down now to a race for 31st, as it'll be C-Phil, who just about gets it as Virus Dot catches some wheels on a road border.
Yeah, and a finish I didn't see come through was from Wolfie there. He's one of the players that we saw near the top in those first few rounds, getting decent times, you know, close to that 1 minute mark. And yeah, hasn't gone well for him this round. So he's going to head out in 34th place.
34th place, and again, a very strong player dropping out here. This is the kind of map, I think, as well, where very good players will be far up the field and then get into their own heads about doing a risky finish or, you know, pulling off a risky trick. They'll be like, no, I don't need the safe route, and we'll do it a couple of times too many, be like, I can get this risky fin. And then, you know, ego drags you down into a last place spot. I'm not saying that's what happened there. I'm just saying it's the kind of thing that you could see happening. That's an interesting start as well, though. We're seeing that Sherlock's going for the straight jump, not going for the barrel roll. Does look a little bit slower than, you know, the lower jump you get out of going for the barrel.
Yeah, definitely. And you were speaking about that mental battle, about going for that risky line versus that safe line. And it's interesting because Trackmania, especially in a competitive sense, is both a game about skill and just, you know, mental awareness. First of all, about making those decisions, but also understanding the consequences of each. So if you're going for that safe fin or that safe strat on any of these CPs, is actually going to cost you that much? And what is the most important thing to do here? Is it about getting a good time, or is it about just staying in? So all of these questions, stuff to consider for these players, and someone with a lot to consider is Limu, who's at the back, or very far back.
It's look, it's a classic ego versus id question, you know? Ego, the self, the sense of importance. Id, just turn on that animal brain and be like, yeah, I just need to get to this finish by any means possible. I don't need to ego it. I don't need to over-stress about whether or not I look good doing it. As long as you're in those top spots, you're A-okay. Right now, though, Limu, as you said, still down at the bottom, and Dai will cross the line into safe zone. No picks is just on the borderline right now. There are a few spots up for grabs. That will be no pick safe as well. Shine is just not got the speed and doesn't have the hill climb technique to get there. Will crash out one more time, and C-Phil having a finish does mean that will be all the spots gone. Liamu, Quantix, Natix, and Shine will drop out in this round.
Yeah, and I mentioned Ender, who was in that drop zone for a little while going into the end, who then managed to stay in. You know, in previous weeks we've seen those top players, you know, be a little bit shaky at the start. You can have a few rounds where you're not, you know, like as safe as you'd like to be, but you still stay in, and then you come back strong. But we haven't seen that much actually this week. We haven't seen those top names at the bottom, except maybe for Lars, who went out earlier on.
Yeah, which, hey, I mean, Lars didn't go out. He is very much in this round, is worth noting.
Wait.
I think it was, remember when we saw one of the players and it looked like they'd been knocked out, but actually they were in, and there was a whole thing as well. And I think Lars had a similar thing, where after you finish, if you momentarily disconnect and reconnect, it gives you a DNF, but you're not actually DNF'd. I think Lars was a victim of that, and I was just lucky that I didn't get baited by it.
Okay, yeah, and I'm the unlucky one here. Happens, and I think that's probably going to be the theme of this week. When people go out, it's just going to be, yeah, happens, because there's just a lot of mistakes happening all over the place, and it's about making less mistakes than your opponents. And at the moment, Voleur de Bord, No Peaks, Charlocks, and Ernie Ball are the ones making those mistakes. And it's about making less now as we go into the finish, and it's just not really happening for Charlocks, the Belgian player, as he dives into the water and going to jump straight out into the checkpoint, into this impressive jump and flip down. Down onto the road as he's passed by Lucis. Actually, Lucis is a very good player. C-Phil, not a bad player himself. We're going into the end. Are any of them going to go for the risky fin? Both of them do. Both of them make it, and Charlocks doesn't.
Look at how many of them are here. So many respawns. C-Phil misses again. Charlox misses again. C-Phil respawning. Volley to Bork respawning. Lucis has gotten across the line. Ernie has got across the line. It's another crash for Charlox. I believe one spot still up for grabs. For whoever can get there. There's 4 players. I think surely someone has to get across this line. Surely someone makes it. C-Phil will make it. And it turns out the answer was nope. Lucis had made it across 5 seconds earlier, so there were no spots left available, and that means Charlox no picks, Voller de Pork, and C-Phil will drop out in round 9.
I think that's a GR from everyone.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's great rounds that are tense because it comes down to great racing and there's a tenth between 2 cars at the finish line. There's great rounds where you have 5 cars throwing themselves at the finish line 5 times in a row and one of them actually manages to clutch up enough to get there, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier in that round, and you know, for those who didn't make it through that round, it's just happens. You know, that guy did, I didn't, and I'm out because of it. So yeah, as we saw, Lars, who made a very early mistake, who's in 19th position at the moment, Ender as well, close to the back, Comey as well. So I mentioned those better players not having those bad rounds early on, but this might be one of them as we're going into this bobsleigh and exiting it now. Comey really in the danger zone now. Needs to have a safe and clean second half of the track.
Clean being the operative word there. Very close to that wall, but that just means he has the lineup and overtakes a couple of cars on the way through. Comey off to a slow start in the previous round as well. Yannick's now joining him down here at the back. Ernie Ball looking to stay in for another round on the edge, as it is Comey and Yannick's racing each other to stay safe at the moment. And that's not something you necessarily expect to see just inside the top 20. Lack of speed for Ernie may cost him a skinny, will overtake, and it's down to 20th place. It's down to the elimination spots. Yeah,
Ernie Ball going into this finish. Is he going for that risky finish with... Oh, no, he's going to go for the safe finish. He probably learned from the mistakes of the others earlier on. No, he has actually, yeah. He goes up 3 spots by going for the safe finish. And that, yeah, I told you this finish. From the first point I saw it, it's gonna cause issues for a lot of players, and it is.
Plixie will join in 19th place, the other player to stay safe on this round. Plixie, of course, showed up for one of the kind of, not late editions, but I think around edition 20 showed up for his first ever mini RPG of the week, immediately won it, and then didn't show up for another couple of months, which...
refused to elaborate.
Yeah, there's just some there's strong energy coming off those decisions.
It's just show up, win, and yeah, it's it just happens.
Yeah. See if you can do it again here, managing to just about stay in that round. Look, the safe finish, if you don't have the acceleration, we've seen some players not have the technique to climb up that dirt hill, the zigzag that you need if you don't get a bit of a start up it. And it has cost some players already on the safe fin as well as the risky fin. Ernie Ball, I mean, it's not luck, but, you know, scraping from the back, hanging on by your fingernails, it only lasts so long, but every round it lasts is a triumph.
Yeah, and is it going to last for another round is the main question for him at the moment. As he's down in that 19th position, 4 players are going to be eliminated. Area and Lucis again towards the back. Lucis has had an up and down event at the moment. He's really been like either at the top or at the very back and nowhere in between. He's going for those safe routes at the moment. Ernie Ball has caught up a little bit. He's up to 15th now in that one safe position, but being chased down by the 2 French players or on the Neko Gym. So Ernie Ball goes through the checkpoint. There's been more mistakes by Skinny, Area and Lucis, and they're quite far back now. Neko Gym goes through the jump. Oron has taken the safe route, but it's much slower. And we're going into the Clown Fiesta end.
Yeah, heading to that end, and I think we're going to see some struggles. One of them is Oron, maybe? He can get there. He can get there. He can get there. He can get there. He gets there in 14th place. Lucker's Turbo will lose out as Ernie Ball will sneak across the line for a 15th place finish.
You love to see it. Let's see how far Ernie Ball can get. A top 15 is a very strong result already, and it's not his final result. Let's see how far he can push this. As we have some of those players like Lucker's Turbo being out now, and we go down to only 2 players being eliminated per round.
Still some very strong players, and players that we just haven't seen near the bottom an awful lot. Yannick's, he spent a little bit of time at the bottom, but Yannick's often does occasionally have 1 or 2 rounds in the middle that look a little bit dicey. Marius not really shown down there at all. Novu not being down near the bottom at all either, really. But we're dropping out of places. Mean, I think this is probably the first time I've seen him all event, and right now he's in the hot seat.
That's probably what you want. That's what most players would want, not to be shown, and just being that consistent. You know, I'm in, and no questions asked. questions being asked though of Corchi at the moment as he's going into this dirt now. He's down in 15th, 12 seconds off the lead. Ahead of him is Luna, but who's also a few seconds ahead, so it's going to be a tough one. Ernie Ball still fighting for these lower positions. Go on, Ernie.
He's got the lines, he's got the stamina, he knows the edge he needs at the moment to stay in these spots. Korch is on the climb at the moment. He's overtaken Ender, who is now in last place, 15th at the moment. And it's going to come down to the finish line again. We saw a matter of tenths last time around. I'd say the finish. Luma with a big mistake, and Luma now really in the hot seat. Ender is going to be making this jump. He's going to be making it clean and is now just behind Korch. Both of them going for this jump. Korch is a little bit faster through it. They overtake Lars, who is at the back. Ernie has had to respawn, and Ernie's a long way down the field now. I think you're running out of time. That's Comey off in the distance, going potentially for a safe finish. Luma with a crash out, and Comey with the safe finish was the last car across the line. And now it's just for pride, just to scrape across the line one more time. There goes Luna, and there goes fan favorite. The crowd goes wild as Ernie will cross in 15th place.
Can we get a clap in chat for Ernie, as that was a valiant effort and a great performance from him as he goes out in 15th. I think he can be very proud of that, because a lot of good players are ahead of him, and it would have been very difficult to go any further, I can imagine.
Yeah, a lot of good players ahead of him, a lot of good players behind him at this point of the competition as well. But history won't record it, because we're only going to be recording the top 10, a top 10 that we are barreling towards rapidly. For a lot of these players, it would not be a first appearance for them, to put it mildly. A lot of them have spent a lot of time on those leaderboards. Marius, I mean, look, he's just safe. He drops behind at the start, but you just expect him to drive the rest of the way without errors. It's these guys at the back right now who are making mistakes. Every single player back here at the moment with at least one big crash. Most of them with at least one respawn as well.
Yeah, and one of those players is Ice, who we have not seen at the back, and he's been consistently at the front. So he's really going to have to recover quite well now, as he's got very low speed. He's fighting with these players. He's fighting with Lars.
Oh, risky. Oh. Ice and Lucis both forced to respawn. Lucis, we saw him in the warm-up practicing that line, seeing if he could go without the plastic bench to do it. It looks like he's figured out that it can work. He likes it, and right now it has kept Ice behind him, as Ice was forced to respawn a couple of times, forced to eventually take the long way around. Once again, heading towards this finish line, heading towards this double backflip. Lucis in front of Ice, as Ice will just about land cleanly, making it over that jump. It's this flip over the top. There's a respawn from Plixie, from Neko Jim. It'll come down to the finish. It'll come down for Ice with more speed through the line as he overtakes Plixie, as Plixie will bounce out. There's room for Neko Jim, but he fails again, and Oron is trying to get there too. Plixie still not over the line. Oron is so far back. Plixie was upside down at the finish line that time around. 25 seconds remaining. Plixie will be the player to get across the line, and Neko Jim in the middle of all that DNF'd as we saw his rival to get across the finish line try over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that Ice had ice in his veins by making that end first try. Someone who must have had boiling water in his veins was Pixie, as he just could not get it right, but eventually did, and that's pretty much all that matters as he manages to stay in now. And the names that I can see in this top 11 are some very strong competitors, and I think they're all going to be vying for a place in that top 10 and to continue into the competition, as we've seen some big mistakes to begin with. Lars is at the back. I think Lucis again is at the back, so it's going to be an interesting round to see if Lars catching up already. Plixie has made another mistake. Oh, it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. Lars, I think, taking a page out of Marius's book this week and going for some very safe strats early in the map. He was the only player on that first jump not to go for the barrel roll, to just take a straight jump and say, yeah, I'm not risking it. And he was immediately rewarded. We saw at least one player bouncing out from it. And right now, Lars is in first place after that slow start compared to the rest of them. Novu in the hot seat. Novu just wiggling, getting through there and finding his way onto the booster. But still some players in front that he needs to overtake if he wants to make it inside this top 10.
Yeah, and Lars made that early mistake, but look where he is now. He's in that first position by over a second. So it just goes to show this map, you know, you can turn your fate around in a few checkpoints. And yeah, Lars has done that. Can Novu do it as we go into the end? Pixie? No!
Oh,
Novu
that's
gets it.
heartbreak. Novu gets it. It doesn't matter because there were multiple players crawling up that hill towards the finish line. Plixie, if it was a one shot, would have been in. Instead, by the slimmest of margins, Plixie drops out. Novu makes it into the top 10, and we're down to 9 players.
Yeah, down to 9 players. We have Marius, Ice, Comey, Lars, Yannex, Ender. These names, you know, household names in the Trackmania community. It's going to be an interesting final as they've all looked quite good on this map. Yannick is one of those players who's looked just relatively comfortable, and I think comfort is a rare commodity in this week of Mini RPG of the Week. Everybody looking on the edge, making mistakes, making clips, and having to recover. And Ender is one of those players who has to recover. I mentioned Yannick, he's right ahead of him. He's the one that he's chasing down as we go into this bobsleigh section. A lot of players have clipped on this exit. None of them do. Ender gets a tricky transition. Yannick makes the mistake and has to respawn. He's alongside Mean as we're going into this second half of the map.
Yannick's with a lot of speed. They'll both get this plastic bounce, but I mean, no one fails it. At this point of the competition, we're not at a point where that's a part of the map that people fail. In fact, it's hard to think of many parts coming up that people are going to fail, bar that finish. Yannick is going to make a mistake. All right, that's on me. Caster Curse, call that one. 11, 12, 13 seconds behind the leader at this point. It's going to be a lot of fails necessary at this finish line. There's two. Mean could yet make it in. Yannick still needs a couple more fails from people in front. Ender gets across the line. Ice behind him. Will he get there? Mean will make it in 7th place. The mistakes came through, and this time Ice, well, it's thawed a little bit.
Man, Yannick, put down the vape, lean back in your chair because it's all over. And it's all over for Ice as well. Two of these players who I would have considered probably top 3 in this week on this map. And Yannick and Ice are two fastest players, actually. Two only players who are sub 1 minute on this map, and they're both out as we go into our top 7. So this leaves the competition wide open for any one of these players or a number of these players to get a high position or even the win.
This time around, Luce is making a mistake. Will still be on his wheels. Will still be able to continue driving, but a long way down the field. Marius dropping a little bit back from the peloton, as you called it earlier as well. Well, never mind. There goes Ender straight into a tree, and it's Ender and Luce's hand in hand, 6th and 7th, with a lot of work to do to catch back up, as they will still be on track, but it looked dicey for both of them there for a second.
Yeah, to continue with the cycling terms, if the group ahead is the peloton, then Ender and Lucis are the gruppetto, and they have to really catch up with some sort of breakaway. But it's not looking very good at the moment, as it's not much speed. But we're going into the second half. Lucis makes another clip, and I have the feel that one might be fatal. But no, Marius made a big mistake. He made a big mistake, and he's going for that safe strat. And Lucis, oh no!
Look, Marius is still in front, but only just as he's struggling to make the jump on the safe route as well. We saw that is probably one of the trickier safe routes. It is failable if you don't build up enough speed. And Lucis is in 5th. It comes to the end. That's a mistake. That's a fail. Marius is there. One time. He gets it. Comey didn't finish. He did. He finished in 2nd place. I tell a lie. His car had just rolled back down the hill. Lucis in 6th place. You can't beat out Marius. I mean, he's the safe meister, and apparently that means mind-controlling his opponents by taking the safe path and still managing to catch them.
In other words, PayPal. Yeah, Comey did finish, and I can see where you made the mistake. He was only 9 seconds ahead.
I fully lost track of what was going on that far up the track.
It is mayhem. It's chaotic as we go into the end.
How did Marius land there? I mean, how does he still have speed? How is Comey the one who's dropped back?
You said it. He's a Jedi. He uses that mind control, and it's working to perfection because Mean cannot make the jump. Comey has, and he's flying ahead. And as we've got only one player going to be eliminated, Mean is the outright favorite to take that position. It would be a top 5, but he has to feel he'd probably want more. These players ahead, know the map now, know the mistakes that they made previously, and have to correct them. They're looking strong. No real mistakes. Marius has a bit of a clip. He's slowed down. The two German players side by side. Mean is still 5 seconds behind. It's going to be very difficult to catch up as we're going into the end.
Heading towards the end now, and well, we're getting a little bit of suspense. The frames are dropping, at least on my end anyway. I'm hoping that's a me problem and not a stream problem, as Mean is a long way back down the field. He is catching a little bit though, and if there is a mistake at the finish line, Comey is in a tough spot. Lars and Marius have both gone for that safe finish. Mean will snipe, and it's Comey who drops at the end with a mistake across the finish line.
And you know what? Comey didn't finish. You could have said it just a round later, and it would have been fittingly perfect. But yeah, Comey goes out in this round, and I think our top 4 are looking very strong. But like we mentioned, the amount of mistakes we saw earlier in the earlier rounds, we still have those mistakes, and we're top 4. It's the map. It's brilliant. It's just giving us this suspense, and it's not about who drives cleanest. It's about who makes the least mistakes.
Well, it's not Marius this round. Somehow he is still on all four wheels. Somehow he's still not completely out of touch, but he is a long way back, and now he is completely out of touch. A finish off the podium for Marius, looking to be in the cards here in week 35.
Oh, but there is mistakes ahead. That is the key. I know it's looking very difficult. Yeah, it's looking very unlikely. But he's going to have to find something. He's going to have to find something from within him to unleash.
You always got to remember the Bradbury principle in Trackmania as well as ice skating, you know? I mean, as long as you get across that finish line, someone else could be making that mistake no matter how far back you are. It's unlikely when we're at the top 3, when the players know the map this well, and when, I mean, you hope they're aware of the gap as well, but a lot of these players, they play HUD off. They continue to risk even when it's not strictly necessary. Mean, though, is clean and will make it across that line with a minimum of fuss.
Yeah, I mean, Marius can still be happy with his performance. He's going to make it onto that TM news post. You know, the top 4 obviously going to make it. Yeah, I mean, it's for the clout, and he's got +1 clout in this event, as he's going to drive up the hill and claim his 4th position. We have our top 3 of Lars, Korchi, and Mean.
Yeah, I do remember calling Korchi for the entire first time I ever saw him play Mini RPG of the Week. Only to hear myself being giggled at by everyone who actually knew that his name was Korsh. So here we are. Look, I've figured it out since then, which is a good thing. ... says the server is taking a hot second to load us on in here. But again, it's just tension building as we set the stage for our top 3. A top 3 that features neither of the players who have made it below the 1 minute mark. I mean, surely no one breaks that at this point, but it would be hype.
I mean, it could be likely. Lars in that last round just claimed the 5th local record, which is only 0.4 off of that sub 1 minute, so who knows. And they're still going for this risky route, and Korch pays the price, and he's going to be far behind. Let's see if Lars or Mean make any mistakes, but it's not looking likely. This is our top 3. These should be our best players. They should not be making those silly mistakes.
Different lines through the bobsleighs, different setups means that Lars is quite a bit slower going through it. Mean is wider in this, needs to wrap around a little bit better and makes the mistake. He needed to wrap around better to get that plastic bounce, and he was not able to. Force double respawn, no, it was a forced single respawn. Korch now is within striking distance. Mean forced to double respawn on that checkpoint instead. He will crash into a wall, head first into it, head first the second time. He has reactor boost, so the acceleration penalty, not the end of the world, but Korch now pulling away is about a second ahead of Mean. They're both on the air there. Is Korch landing correctly? Mean isn't. Mean is not landing. Surely Korch just across this finish line. Surely no mistakes. Does he go for the risky fin? He does. He's going to crash out. He's going to be upside down. He's turtled on the line. Has he made it across? Yes, he has. Gets just enough traction. Doesn't slip down the hill. Mean will turtle across the line as well, but 3 seconds adrift.
The lean, mean fighting machine goes out in 3rd, and Korch showing some great RPG skills, recovering from that difficult situation. Those right, left to turtle into the finish. And he's got himself into the final, but he's against a strong opponent in Lars. Lars, who set a 1 minute and a 1 minute 1 in the last 2 rounds. He's looking very strong, he's looking very safe, and who knows how he wants to drive this map. It's about if Korchi can match that now or not. That risky line, but it's fast. And that's essentially it's faster than Korch. And it's going to give an early lead as we're going into the second half of the map and into the bobsleigh.
That was buttery by Lars through our first set of transitions, and it has opened him up a lead. He is now about 3/10 ahead of Korch, as Korch is slower again through that wall. This wall bounce we saw it cost last round. Lars is much safer though, will make it all the way across. Korch is still the player chasing, and it could all still come down. Something near the end of the map. Look at how tight Lars is. Was he maybe too tight? Did he make contact with that wall? He is now being hunted down by Korch. This jump cost Mean on the last round. Lars is a little bit higher than Korch, but will still retain the lead. Both of them going risky. Korch is so much lower. He'll land quicker. Korch has the lead, heading towards the finish line. Can Korch get there? He fails. Lars fails as well. Korch across the finish line will be the winner of Mini RPG of the Week, number 35.
I said it. I said it.
You did. You called your shot a full 50 minutes ago. And it was a fail on the finish that decides our last round.
And I said if it didn't happen, I wouldn't mention it, but I will not shut up about it now. That was an intense final. Wow, what a round.
Yeah, I mean, it has everything you want out of a mini RPG of the week round, right? Like, where it's both players driving cleanly all the way through. It was pure pace for Lars. It was clean transitions, like legitimately just looked so smooth, so in control through the first half of the map. And then it came down to that second to last jump. First of all, where Korch all of a sudden has the cleanest, the lowest jump, the perfect landing, is flying off into the lead, and then gets inside his own head and just full crashes the finish, and then Korch crashes again, and I mean, wild.
I mean, what a map, what a finish, what a final. Super enjoyable to watch, and it came down to that fact of who made the least mistakes and who recovered best, because they both failed that end, but essentially Korch was the one who recovered quickest and settled and managed to make it on the second attempt. Unfortunately, Lars didn't, and it cost him the win this week.
Yeah, look, well-deserved win, ultimately. I mean, I think either of those players at this point would have been a deserving winner. Both of them fought back from some dicey rounds in the middle as well. Both of them, you know, had their recoveries on point, and it shows there in the final round. That's going to do it for us here in Mini RPG of the Week 35. Babs, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Nua, for having me on.
It's been a good time. That's maybe it for us this Christmas. I don't think so, though. I think we have one more coming up before the new year. But in the meantime, I hope everyone really enjoys their Christmas break. I hope everyone has a lovely time. And I hope you're going to enjoy yourself on Christmas Day. If you celebrate, and hey, if you don't, I mean, hey, whatever. Have a good time anyway. Babs, we're going to say goodbye. See you, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Have a good one.
Somewhere
Bye.